What do you think about President Trump?
Well, I'm in the UK, so what do you think about him?
Okay, today I want to talk about Malala Yousafzai, a young lady who was shot by the Taliban in Pakistan some years ago when she was 15 years old for speaking out for the rights for young women to be educated, and not just in her country but around the world. And I thought I'd take a look at her natal chart, see if we could get some insights as to what drove or drives this young woman. First off, we can see she has Leo rising. Her ruler, the ruler of Leo, the sun, is in Cancer, which is a focal point. I'll start with that because we see here there's a square with Saturn, and not a very strong one, but a loose square, T-square, forming because Saturn also opposes her Mars and her Moon, and it forms a tense T-square. Now Saturn is restrictions, of course. The Sun is the consciousness and the drive to grow as an individual. It's a focal point in the chart. The Moon is the emotions and responses, natal, natural responses, inherited responses, I guess you could say, the things that we inherit in the world, how we react instinctively. So instinctively, she's very much like a Libra, which is a sign that seeks to achieve balance and beauty, harmony in relationships and in life in general, hence the scales. Mars being in conjunction with her Moon emotions, Mars being drive and action and our fight, so to speak, joins with her Moon, which gives her a lot of emotional courage here. It's in opposition to Saturn, so it is not courage that is unchallenged, obviously, because she was again shot by the Taliban for her advocating on behalf of the education of girls, and the sun being involved just pretty much makes this the core piece. And also, very loosely, here's Neptune in opposition and in square to Saturn. So it is, save for this, it would actually be a grand cross if these also squared, but it's not quite a grand cross, and the Neptune is the weakest of all the of this opposition in this square. But Neptune would denote deception and illusion, and so, but again, it's very, 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 very weak. I think the focal point I would put is here with Mars and Moon, the courage of her convictions against the restriction, the earthly restrictions, the government, the any Saturn represents institutions, and an institution is not necessarily something that's built physically. It's an institution is anything that exists. It's been established over a period of time, and right or wrong, it prevails. And in this case, the establishment, the institution of gender discrimination in our world and many cultures would be what she was. Oh, and it should also be noted, the moon represents women. Venus and the moon, as Mars and the sun are the male archetypes, Venus and the moon are the female archetypes, and she has, again, that fight, emotional fight, tied in tensely with the sun and Saturn. And going from there, we have these easier aspects in the blue here that it's always good to have supportive aspects. The oppositions and the squares always in a struggle. So, like for instance, here with her Mercury, which is another thing I really wanted to highlight. Mercury represents the mind, thought, communication, how we voice our opinions, how the lens through which we view the world, usually closely, never far away from the sun. So sometimes very more closely aligned, sometimes a little further, again, two different signs, but still not far away enough to ever be in conflict with our basic ego, our opinions, so, and our intellect and how we process information and how we communicate. And she has an opposition here. An opposition with Uranus means that there is it's a seesaw type energy where there's opposing principles, but as you can see, whenever there's a square or an opposition, what you find is that the signs, usually, not always, it can be at the end of one sign, the beginning of another, but more 90% of the time, I'd say, maybe 85% of the time, you're going to find here the angles are going to be involved in oppositions and squares: Taurus, Leo, Aquarius, and Scorpio here. Now, these are the fixed signs. Uranus is in its own sign. It rules Aquarius, so it's strongly placed here. And Aquarius and Uranus are the sign and planet of genius and revolution and rebellion. So her mind is definitely independent of action and thought. Her thoughts are her own. Her opinions are her own. Couple that with the fact that she has an easy sextile here with her emotional courage. So she what she feels and what she thinks are nicely and easily expressed through this. Venus also forms a very loose conjunction, but it also forms a sextile with her moon and Mars, which makes her a very pleasant person. Venus is the ruler of Libra, and Venus is, of course, and also of Taurus, but Venus is, of course, the planet of beauty and harmony, as Libra is the sign of beauty, harmony, art, diplomacy, anything where there's a striving for balance, because that's all beauty is. It's a recognition of a balance of things. When you hear good music, when you taste good food, when you see a pretty face, you're basically recognizing and appreciating balance. And so emotionally, she has that. She's very serious because Saturn is involved with both of her lights, we call the sun and the moon. but and she's serious in her affections and her values. Venus is also values, because Venus is things like money when it falls more into the Taurus area, but values and beauty and balance. And so it forms a nice sextile with the moon and Mars, which tempers, along with the fact that they're both in Libra, ruled it's the depositor of Libra. It rules Libra, so these planets are under its rule in this chart. And there's a trine also between the planet Uranus, revolution, brilliance, genius, just anything that is different. And on the positive side, on the negative side, Uranus can be erratic and rebellious without any cause, because just change for the sake of change. But when constructively, it can combat outdated ideas and modes of behavior, and it does that on a higher level, the societal level, of change. But it also does on an individual level in our lives. We need to break through stagnated behavior patterns, and Uranus is one of the main players in that lifelong process. And as we see here, she has an easy, emotionally, and with her fight, she has an easy energy identification with this part of her, with the opposition between her mind and this is supported by this conjunction that sextiles Mercury and trines Uranus, loosely also trines Jupiter. Jupiter sextiles Saturn, which is also supportive, along with the Venus. So again, you have this nice combination of very easy flowing aspects where these things come easy, to the ones that are struggle, and the combination of these gifts and these struggles in all of our charts comprise who we are on our our growth. And Malala, at her young age, is already a Nobel Peace Prize winner, in the steps of people like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who she shares the courage of her convictions with people like that, and Mahatma Gandhi, people in history who, at great personal risk, made standing up to principles for the benefit of others, for the benefit of humanity in general, and not just for a select portion of humanity, or just for personal gain. They used their insights and their courage to try to effect meaningful, productive, loving change in the world. And I don't know where the world would be without people like that. Anyway, I thought it would be worth looking at her chart, and I feel satisfied I was right. You can contribute to my page. I left a link here down below this video. I want to thank you for looking at the stars with me.